we all want to be winning. We have to win as a nation. We want to win as a family. This fragrance is all about strength and success and confidence for men and for women. Get yourself a bottle and don't forget to grab one for your loved ones too. They'll thank you and they'll even smell good.
Yeah, right. Oh, you thought after he won the election that was going to stop? He's selling fragrances like J-Lo. For anyone who is buying this crap he sells, just give the man your ATM card and PIN number already and get it over with, will you?
I mean,
fight,
Willie, this reminds me of Jonathan a year ago. Like it was a failed attempt to make a little bit of money on the side, but remember Essence of La Mer?
Yes.
He couldn't get it in.
Not La Mer. That's my face cream.
Essence of La Mer. It didn't take off.
Yeah. La Mer.
You know, if you walk into any Bloomingdale's in New York or elsewhere, Lemire or one of his representatives, they spray you when you know when you walk through the perfume section, they're always spraying the stuff. Lemire will be through the holidays right there in Midtown, sharing his fragrance. Not a huge seller yet.
Yeah, I've had better ideas. The scent was a mix of sort of Dunkin' Donuts plus desperation for the Red Sox to sign a power-hitting left fielder. It hasn't really taken off.
We're going to mosquitoes away.
It does. There is that added benefit is that it kills mosquitoes, but frankly most other living things. So we're expecting, frankly, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to give it his stamp of approval. But everyone else is concerned.
Yeah. Kills mosquitoes, ants, and friendships.
Yes.
And he tried to change it to La Mière.
Oh, for French?
Yeah, try to make it
more classic.
Hey, Mike.
Mike's here.
I see we got Mike here. Mike, I just really quickly, before we get into this, I just got to ask you about one of the dumbest ideas I've heard come out of baseball's front offices, this golden bat rule. Like, what are we doing?
I thought you were saying Golden Bachelor.
What are they even thinking about, Mike?
Well, I think they're thinking of, marketing, getting younger people more interested in baseball. Leave it alone. This is truly one of the more stupid ideas ever discussed in Major League Baseball. Here's how it would work. You'd get a golden at-bat during once a game. So it's the eighth inning. Your team is one run down. You got the bases loaded. You can take your best hitter who's already hit in that inning or whatever and put him up to bat. That's the golden at-bat used right there. If you're ever going to use it, maybe use it as a fluke in an all-star game, but certainly not in the regular season. Because, Jonathan, here's the way this would happen. You got Bobby Witt Jr. The Kansas City Royals are down one run in the bottom of the eighth. Bases are loaded. Put their best hitter, Bobby Witt Jr., up to the plate. He gets a single, all right? Knocks in the tying run or whatever. But he was hitting for the number 9 guy in the order. And Bobby Witt Jr. is the leadoff hitter. So what do? Put him back up at bat again?
Yeah,
back,
for sure.
Back to back.
Though I like the idea of Rafi Devers facing Garrett Cole as much as possible, even in consecutive at-bats. This is a terrible idea. Rob Manfred mentioned it in a podcast some months ago. It's gotten another wind here. Baseball has done a wonderful job the last couple of years with some of their rule changes. The pitch clock in particular has revolutionized the game, revived it. We're seeing an increase in attendance, TV ratings with young people as well. Those are all good things. This one here, a bridge too far, and let's hope it's quickly abandoned.
No, I just don't see it. I mean, even though I would love to see Duran at third, Devers at second, Ceddanne Raphael at first, and then us, of course, next year going to Soto and putting him up to bat, that would be great. That'd be a grand slam, but I just don't. Let's just play it straight. Let Soto help us win the World Series straight on. Mike, where are we now? I hear they're cutting down teams. Is it now down to the Yankees, the Mets, and the Red Sox?
With Toronto also in the picture, although I doubt anyone would want to go to Toronto because of the exchange rate for players and in terms of the money they make. That would be difficult, and Toronto's roster is going to turn over next year. Vladimir Guerrero might not sign again with Toronto, so that's the next. But I think it's down. I actually think it's down to the Yankees and the Mets. I think the Red Sox are in it, God bless them, but I think it's down to the Yankees and the Mets. Can the Yankees afford to let Soto go? Probably not. Can the Mets afford not to sign Soto? Probably not. So that's the money pitch. It could get to $700 million. Crazy money.
Let's go, Red Sox. Come on.
All right, let's go to the news now. Our top story this hour, Pete Hegseth says he will be back on Capitol Hill today to meet with Republican senators as he tries to salvage his bid for defense secretary. It will be his fourth straight day on the Hill amid mounting allegations of sexual assault, alcohol abuse, and other misconduct. He told CBS News yesterday that he had spoken to President-elect Donald Trump, who told him to keep fighting. One of his key meetings yesterday was with Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa, who is a combat veteran, who is also a sexual assault survivor. And here's what she told reporters.
It was a very frank, thorough discussion.
Senator, will you support Mr. Hegseth's nomination?
It was a frank and thorough conversation.
Did he ask for your vote specifically?
Thank you.
When you met with Matt Gaetz, you said he brought up some of the allegations against him. Did Pete Hegseth bring up any of these things?
It was a very thorough conversation.
And also frank?
Any of your concerns? Did he read any of your concerns?
Keep walking, Elliot. Guys, need a pathway. We need to be able to walk. We need to be able to walk. Any chance you're up for consideration as defense secretary, Senator?
And again, that sounds like the Southern equivalent of bless her heart or bless your heart. The reason why is, again, they were expecting or they were hoping Joni Ernst would come out and support Pete Hegseth. It would be awfully hard for her to do that. She's a woman in combat. She's been a champion of women in combat. He has been against that from the start. Mm-hmm. And then you just pile up the sexual misconduct allegations, including the rape allegation in the police report, the public drunkenness that we're hearing from inside of Fox News, and we've been hearing for quite some time inside of Fox News. You have the financial mismanagement that the New York Times is detailing, and I know you're going to get in here, but he starts with Vets for Freedom. They have $8.7 million when he starts in 2008. 4 years later, they're in debt and they collapse as he leaves. He goes to another organization, always spending more than they take in. And when he leaves, they're $37,000 in debt. And all of that doesn't even start with the first serious hurdle, which is he's just not qualified
for the job
at 40 with his background to run the most complicated and the most powerful bureaucracy in America and the world.
The pattern also all feeds into each other, a pattern of either discipline issues or potentially addiction. The New York Times, and it's not just Joni Ernst. I mean, all the Republicans are going to have to look at this and figure out how they could stomach confirming
I just don't
someone
think they can. I mean, even
qualified.
Lindsey Graham saying a couple of days ago, it just doesn't,
I don't know.
Just doesn't look like
now,
it's
the New York
happen.
Times, as you mentioned, digs deeper into the Hegseth's history at Fox News and his leadership at two nonprofit organizations. The paper reports that in December of 2017, Mr. Hegseth got so drunk at a wedding of a Fox News producer that he struggled to stand upright in a men's bathroom. According to two people with direct knowledge of the episode who declined to be named for fear of retribution, friends asked a producer who was there to get Mr. Hegseth a ride home so he could make it to the set by 6 a.m., they said. Hegseth's lawyer told the paper that the allegation was not true. The Times also reports that Hegseth's tenures as the head of two nonprofit veteran groups ended with both in financial trouble. At the first, Vets for Freedom, revenues rose sharply under his leadership, reaching $8.7 million in 2008. But spending rose even faster. The group fell into debt, then fizzled. In 2012, 4 years later, it received just $81 in donations, according to financial documents
From
filed with the IRS.
$8.7 million to $81.
The second, Concerned Veterans for America, also often spent more than it took in. Was $37,000 in debt by 2016 when Mr. Hegseth was listed in tax filings as the outgoing chief executive officer.
Let's bring in right now senior political columnist for Politico, Jonathan Martin. Jonathan, love to get your reporting on this. And again, I mean, I would say this is like John Tower in '89, but this is John Tower. This is like John Tower squared. He did, though, make the Tower-esque declaration, I shall not drink if I am SecDef. But again, you look at Joni Ernst, who's, she's a vet. She's been a champion of women in the military. She's talked about sexual abuse in the military. You just go down the list of things, and then the financial. He took an organization that was bringing in $8.7 million a year and drove it down to $18 a year, and then did the same. And then you go to the New Yorker piece with all of the whistleblower complaints. These are all things that senators are going to hear in what would be a dreadfully ugly Senate confirmation hearing.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like with Matt Gaetz. They don't want to have the hearing. They want to kill it in the crib, never have to cast a recorded vote in committee or on the floor because they don't want to have to vote against Trump's appointee. But this is classic Trump. He names Hegseth because he's a guy on TV that Trump likes, and that's the long and the short of it. And then the hot potato gets tossed in the lap of the lawmakers of his own party whose voters love Trump, who don't want to cross their voters, but who also don't want to vote for the Fox and Friends weekend co-host to run the U.S. military. So that's kind of the whole story, writ small, of the Trump era in GOP politics. That said, it's a math issue. You start with Collins or Murkowski. That's two, likely not going to support him. McConnell's going to be uneasy about Hegseth on national security grounds. That gets you to three. And then the question, Joe, is for Joni Ernst, is for Todd Young, is for somebody else that we're not talking about that could be out there looming. It's just a matter of finding the fourth vote. But it's a pretty straightforward issue, I think.
So, Jonathan, as we consider all this, let's talk about your latest piece for Politico titled "Biden White House is Discussing Preemptive Pardons for Those in Trump's Crosshairs." In it, you write this, quote, President Joe Biden's senior aides are conducting a vigorous internal debate over whether to issue preemptive pardons to a range of current and former public officials who could be targeted with President-elect Donald Trump's return to the White House. It's according to senior Democrats familiar with the discussions. The deliberations touch on pardoning those currently in office, elected and appointed, as well as former officials who've angered Trump and his loyalists. Those who could face exposure include such members of Congress's January 6th committee as Senator-elect Adam Schiff and former GOP Representative Liz Cheney. Also mentioned by Biden's aides for a pardon, Anthony Fauci, the former head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, who became a lightning rod for criticism from the right during the COVID-19 pandemic. The president himself, Jonathan, continues, who was intensely focused on his son's pardon, has not been brought into the broader pardon discussions yet, according to people familiar with deliberations. So, Jonathan, what does this look like? What are you pardoning Anthony Fauci for? What are you pardoning Liz Cheney for, who've not been charged or convicted of crimes?
That goes to the heart of this deliberation, Willie, and why this is so delicate, because the White House counsel and a handful of senior White House aides, including Jeff Zients, the chief of staff, are having this debate right now in the West Wing, which is, do we leave these folks out in the cold and potentially expose them to Kash Patel's FBI and Donald Trump's White House for any number of charges or some kind of, show trial to get a measure of revenge and at the very least make them pay six figures in legal bills to avoid such a case? Or do we offer preemptively pardons to people